Oh, here you are. Hello, Patricio. Patricio. I'm very cramped in this setup over here. Hello, Ms. Marilyn. I am going to be doing a drawing with one of my neighbors in my building. And in order to invite her on here, I have to go to her place and press the right buttons on her phone. So there'll be a little moment when you're just going to see this, and Russell, who knows this person, may come on right now and keep us company while I get Patsy ready. So, and if Russell, can you join us right now? And then I will go over to get Patsy figured out. See, okay, we'll click on the link, invite, copied, edit, paste. This is again an attempt to sort of teach my neighbors how this can work with 2 or 3 people. And soon I'll be back to my usual routine of aimlessly babbling with anyone and everyone. But right now I want to get this thing going. So Russell, if you'd like to come on. There we go, Russell. Add to stream. Oh, a little doggy.
Indeed.
Okay. Well, what I'm going to do, you hold the fort down. I'm going to go over to Patsy's now and get her started, if I can. I may also, since I have the ability right now, I may join it from my phone, just so I can. Oh, hell with it. I'll wait till later. So, whose dog is that?
So actually, I was needing to blow off some steam here. So, there is a portrait by a fella called George Romney called Lady Hamilton as Nature, and this is the dog she's holding in her lap.
Okay. Very good.
Yeah, there's a nice video on YouTube by the Frick Collection talking about Lady Hamilton's history and showing that painting amongst others.
Is
So
this Lady Hamilton who was in love with Nelson?
in love with, yes, she was Nelson's lover right up until the moment Nelson died.
Yeah. Okay. Well, scandal. Okay. Well,
And
I'll be right back. So I don't know if you can see the chat, but you can chat with people if you'd like.
yep.
And okay. Thank you. I'll be right back in 5 minutes, I hope, not longer.
Yep. So now I am officially on the chat, or holding down the fort, as it were. So, well, I mean, how is everybody today? I'm just pulling up the actual YouTube video so I can see how everything goes. How are you today, Miss Marilyn? I see you're watching. Let's see. Pierre also had images of the things that he and Patsy are going to draw, so I'm going to take a look. Let's And I'll just try and draw some really quick versions. Oh, that makes sense. I was thinking one of them looked really weird and lumpy, and that's because it's one of the nudes from the Sistine Chapel ceiling. Uh, Leonardo actually. Oh, and then there's Ezekiel too, but he's clothed, so he doesn't look as weird. But one of the fun things that Vasari talked about, at least, was that Leonardo da Vinci. You have a video to make about the color of the day for the. Yes, yes, I've seen you putting up those videos. What is the color of the day, by the way? But now that I've interrupted myself, um, I just wanted to talk about one of the stories Vasari always talked about with Michelangelo's figures. Is that well, he would indirectly burn Michelangelo by saying one should never draw their figures with too many muscles as if they were big sacks of walnuts. Today's color of the day is J. Urban, Emerald of Chivor. I mean, how could it not be beautiful if it's going to be an emerald color? But I think I'll just try and do a really quick rendition of what I see here. The figure from the Sistine ceiling, a nude youth, it calls it in the plate. Obviously, I'm not going to get this quite right, but one can always try. In fact, Van Gogh once said in a letter to his brother that he believed it was the errors that Michelangelo made that made his figures so dynamic, and that's probably true because really, Michelangelo's figures are way out of proportion, and like I think as far as I know, anatomically speaking, he's putting the muscles in the right places, but he's just over exaggerating. And so it's almost like you're looking at a Jack Kirby figure for pretty much everything he does. I would be keen to state that most comic book tropes in muscular figures and things like that stem from people like Michelangelo and the Italian Renaissance. And I always say, don't just do something, stand there. I'm not certain in what context that is, but okay. Let's. I'm just gonna wing it right here. We're just going straight in with a ballpoint pen because we want to make Kier angry today. He has a rather severe nose, this youth. I can never do anything as quickly as I'd like to, or I probably could, but then I would end up disappointing myself now, wouldn't I? Oh, there's Frederick. Back then, people were more athletic due to fighting and lifting bricks and builders of the day. I would say that's true, but I doubt that anybody was quite as athletic as many of Michelangelo's figures were. They were crazy even for his time. That's my problem is I get ahead of myself sometimes with these, and I get myself lost. it's interesting because this youth has the appearance of being rather corpulent, I must say, even though the head itself is very, as it were, youthful. So I'm just gonna stick to the body here as best I can. See what's happening here? Terrible things are happening. What was already out of proportion is slowly becoming even more disproportionate. The fat portions were more accurate. Now I'm not certain about that. Like, it depends on what you mean by accurate, I suppose. Like, do you mean that the portions of fat were healthier? I would say to a certain extent, yes. If the people could get enough to eat, yes, absolutely. At least for the peasant class, and maybe the slightly richer peasant class. Those were the people that were actually eating slightly healthier. The rich people, of course, were completely out of their fucking minds. But in terms of fat, one of the things that I actually learned last night, they had posca, or that's the Italian name for it. I think it was poscum or something like that. Muscle to fat ratio. Well, now I'm not certain what I'm saying here, but what do you mean by muscle to fat ratio? Are we talking about like painting images, or are we talking about actual people and their ratio of muscle to fat on their actual bodies? I don't cut open bodies, I just draw them. Michelangelo did both. One of the things that I really need to I study gastroenterology, which has to do with digestive system. I'm talking about the statues. Okay. That's what I kind of figured after talking for like 10 seconds. But yes, yes, absolutely. The sculptures were far more in proportion because he couldn't obtain all of the all of the musculature he wanted in the sculptures. He had to have his limits. I mean, one of the classic stories, of course, is that the the David is so only as skinny as he is because the block of marble that Michelangelo had to use for it was so thin. It had been mined out of the, oh, I can't remember the name. But it had been mined out of the mountains like years and years, and it's been sitting around for decades, and he was just sort of given it. It was this junk piece of garbage, and he managed to use it pretty well. You know, he could have given him a bit bigger business, but you had to help your dad with Pandora, Melissa. That sounds like utter chaos. Yeah. This is why I don't stream, because I make jokes like that. Let's what am I doing? I always find myself getting caught up on those little details like the belly buttons, and I never make any progress. Oh, I'm always opening Pandora's box as well. It's uh it's just something which comes naturally to me. I'm always looking at it and saying, yes, the endowments are never as big as they are, but that's because that actually comes from an old Greek idea. The il prepuzio, the oh, what's the thing they cut off of babies when they circumcise them?
The
You can
foreskin.
tell our yes, the foreskin. So let me finish this. So the
Okay.
Greeks
Hold.
and the Greeks used to love the foreskin. The foreskin was the best part of the penis, right? Oh, hey,
uh,
Patsy.
Patsy, you remember Russell?
Yeah, I'll remember Russell. I will.
Okay. Or he was going by Patrick back in those days, but
Yeah.
um, and so Russell, uh,
Hello.
what are you drawing, Russell, now?
I was just sort of attempting to copy over while we were waiting uh, for the that first figure that you sent me of those two. I was
Okay.
just attempting to make any kind of a copy of that. I don't
Okay.
think it's going all well, but it's given me an excuse to talk about foreskins.
Oh, God. Okay. Well, I'm sorry I missed it. I'll have to watch the replay, but I'm going to take you off the stream right now just to have Patsy and I together for a while. Is that okay?
Absolutely. I'll be
Okay.
watching.
You'll be watching. Okay. So, Russell, I'll remove you. So, Patsy, now it's just you and me.
Okay.
And we do have some people that follow me. They're pen collectors, they're calligraphers, there's artists, and all sorts of other people as well. And Patsy is one of my neighbors, and she and I like drawing the figure. And we thought we would each try to draw a rendition of two Michelangelo sketches, and maybe she can explain what she's doing as she's drawing, and I'll just draw on my side, and maybe we'll switch places and I'll describe what I'm doing and she can watch and draw at the same time. So, Patsy, while I get paper, you describe what we're drawing, what we're
Okay.
copying.
Okay. So here's a Michelangelo. We're going to work on two of them. This first one is a draped, clothed figure. And I chose that one because if you turn it upside down, I like to look a lot at the abstractions at the beginning of a drawing. So if you see this upside down, you can see what a dramatic white arrow there is pointing over this way. And then the hand, you see that it pulls it all to the attention here, where the figure, this elder man, is looking at this figure behind him. So it pulls you that way with this big dark arrow. I was just drawing that. Here it is upside down. Here, this is right side up. And here it is right side up.
Yeah,
That,
I guess it,
that's
yeah,
the way I would start.
okay.
I had very traditional training from National Academy fellow who trained with Antoine Bourdelle, who he was an apprentice to him, who was an apprentice to Rodin. So it's the old world
Oh,
teaching, and much to my surprise, that 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 way of drawing is absolutely abstract for the first minute or two.
okay.
Absolutely no details, just abstraction.
Well, here's my version of it. This is the photograph I took on my phone of the picture that we're drawing from, and I can barely see it. It's the size of a postage stamp for me, but I can still try to draw it. I just need a sharpened pencil. And I'm using black paper, so on top of what I'm doing, I'm drawing, Patsy will probably be drawing the darks, and I'm going to be drawing the lights. So you're going to
Oh,
get dizzy. You'll
oh,
all get dizzy. So
Oh, cool thing to do.
you
Yeah.
don't need, Patsy, you don't need to show that picture any longer if it's in your way. And right now we can see, if you move the piece of paper up a little there, that's perfect. If you
Okay.
could keep it there and draw, that would be fine.
Okay.
And then you can talk while you draw if you can.
Okay. So this is, to me, the large dark that defines that light of the shawl. So that's that piece. And here, beyond that, there's a dark going up.
Do
So
we know
this is
who
the shape of the light.
do we
Let's
know
see.
who this person is?
A- ask him.
Some Old Testament character, I suppose. This is part of the Sistine Chapel, and I mean, what I like about the figure, Patsy, as I'm drawing it now, I didn't really see it when I was looking at the photograph in the book, was just how wide he is. He's just really wide.
Yeah. Yeah, I started him over too far on the right, you see.
Well, he's just, and I don't know if it's because he's in foreshortened on a curved part of the ceiling or what, but and his head looks like it's coming out of his shoulder. I mean, this is his head, right? Or not? It's hard to tell.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's, that's what's sort of fun about these, about his, for me, his sculptures and his paintings, is he really twists these people around. If they were real people, they'd be quite uncomfortable, I would think.
Now here is a gray piece, a gray round, that here in the abstraction I'm seeing, I didn't see it until I drew it here, how round it is, an echo, a repetition echo with the shape of the head. But drawing it now, I see that. And this then is a dark, this shape, which leaves a dark that defines the arm. And here is the end of his shawl in the fringe.
Russell pointed out that this is Ezekiel that we're drawing.
Ah,
I,
okay.
he's
Thank you.
he's providing the footnotes. That's my pencil sharpener failing to sharpen my pencil.
Okay, so here, so about now, I would start going to the, well, see, one of the big advantages of doing it this way is now it's all abstract. And before you start putting pieces in, you can, the theory is, it's easier to see if your shapes and sizes are somewhere in territory of what you want. The drawing is all adjustments, but that it's easier for your eye to judge sizes and relative shapes if you're looking at them as an abstraction. And this I'm going to get rid of because it pulls the eye too much. So then I would go to tracking details, which I was my teacher was Greek, but taught in Paris. So he called it ensemble, which means that it goes together, that you draw only the things that go together on what I translated into American as gazintas. Like,
I love that. I use that term all the time, Patsy.
yeah, oh, great.
And gazinta, I thought this was some sort of Yiddish term or who knows what. I thought, what the hell are you talking about?
Uh-huh.
And gazintas are looking at the figure or the landscape or whatever it is you're drawing. And if you see a shape that moves across the body and connects up with another shape or another line, it's a gazinta. This gazinta that, gazinta.
That's exactly it.
So it helps you when you're looking at a figure and you're drawing, if you're drawing the figure like you're putting together Mr. Potato Head, you're going to fail because you don't draw an arm and then draw a shoulder and then draw a torso and draw a leg, because at some point when you start drawing the other arm, you realize that you ran out of room or the one arm is too big. You have to look at all of the elements sort of at the same time. I think. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, that's the idea.
And it's the relationship between one shape and another. It's also what a lot of my viewers, Patsy, are calligraphers, and to make a beautiful lowercase h and followed by a lowercase o and followed by a lowercase w, it isn't just the h or the o, it's the line that connects the two, that if the spacing is right and the connection is right, then it will work. Otherwise, it'll look like a ransom note and you just, cut all these letters and glued them together awkwardly. And Patsy, your
That's very,
your drawing reminds me of some of the ghost shapes that Russell likes to draw. I don't know if he sees that, but
that's interesting.
Can you see my drawing at all, Patsy?
Yeah. So that's really interesting with doing it. That we're doing it
backwards.
Yeah.
Reverse.
And
yeah,
I've always thought
of,
but what you say about being the connections and the fluidity, I've always thought that you had it in your hand, in your eye, and that you draw this way. Just you didn't learn it as gazintas. But
I didn't learn it that way, I guess, but I would see things that way in order to draw things correctly. By making mistake after mistake after mistake, I realized I had to pay attention to the gazintas of the world. And but the I would see things as parallel or repeating shapes.
Yeah.
And our neighbor Lou Gepetti, when he was drawing with us in the gallery, he was making triangles, and then he would make smaller triangles and smaller triangles, and his entire drawing, even though it was a value drawing, everything could be broken down to little tinier facets of triangles that he was filling in. And so the difference I see, Patsy, between the way you and I draw is you draw curvy lines and I draw angular ones.
Yeah, that's a stylistic thing, but I think we're going at it with a similar
we that was what was so amazing when I was watching the six of us draw together during the show that you designed,
Uh-huh.
and how here I thought when Charlotte Kaplan was going to draw, that she would just go right in there and not even measure how many heads tall the figure was or whatever. And but she went the same way that everyone's doing the same thing. They were mapping it out on the page really carefully, and that sort of surprised me.
Mhm.
I thought that people would have been more aggressive about it. Some people would have, other
Mhm.
people, wouldn't so much. There's a foot. This is supposed to be a foot, people. And this is for you, Russell. He knows what I'm drawing here. This doesn't look like him, though. I'm drawing the Hamburglar. For some reason, Russell is fascinated by the Hamburglar creature from McDonald's,
Mm.
and so I'm adding a Hamburglar to the Hamburglar and Ezekiel are having a little tete-a-tete.
Mhm. Never know what's going to show up.
Masterpiece, Robble. So I'm going to start a different one, and I'm
Oh
going.
yeah, we were going to move to another one. So
Well,
you see
no, we
this
can.
stuff- No, I
Yeah.
think that's a good plan. So in the same way, yeah, you show
Okay.
this
Yeah. Let's
one.
do this other one. So this other one is a very maybe Patrick can tell us who this guy is. And I'm going to try a different medium here. I'm going to try. Do I dare try ink wash? Kind of, sort of. Oh, what the heck? I only live once. So this next one is this figure here. Oh,
No, go ahead. You do it.
upside
No,
down. No.
you do it right side up. I'll do it upside down.
Okay.
Yeah. So
Well,
see, this is looking at
Marilyn
traction.
is gonna get seasick here, but again,
Okay.
it's this. No, it's fine.
Yeah.
She can close one eye. Um, so here you have the lower 2/3 of a figure. There's a head in there somewhere, I presume. Oh, there is a head over there. It's right. It's in the shadows. It's right there. And uh, this is an arm and an elbow. It's just a masterpiece of musculature, and again, it looks very uncomfortable. The plate only labels him nude youth. Oh, it does say that. See? Do you have the same book, Russell, as we do? The paintings of Michelangelo, and the paintings are of the Sistine Chapel, and this book was, the photographs were taken before they cleaned it. So I'm gonna work in pen and ink, which I generally don't use when I'm drawing the figure, because I don't think of the figure in terms of line. And but I'm going to try to do something, and I'm actually going to be adding wash on this with a brush with water, and it's going to dissolve the ink I'm using. Here's the winky. Here's the knee. Here's the plaque that maybe would say something if someone gave a lot of money to the Sistine Chapel Foundation. You'd put your name there. The museum, the new wing at the Museum of Fine Arts, Patsy, I'm sure you've noticed it, is when they opened up the American wing, every single possible thing that they could put a plaque on has a plaque on it with this stairway paid for by the XYZ Foundation, or this drinking fountain. And it's just everywhere, this bench, this, that, and it's, so your name could go on this plaque. Maybe the papacy was planning ahead for needing some money.
Here, just to point out, as I go up, so I was blocking in some of the big pieces.
Yeah.
This arm needs to be wider. But I was going up the arm, across the shoulder, and there were the eyeballs, the eye sockets.
The goes into the eye sockets. It does.
It goes into the eye socket. And then if
shoulder, the line
yeah.
of the shoulder does do that. I see that now.
And then his hair, if you go across, is about where you get the thumb. That places the thumb, and then you can go from there down here. So a general, oh no, I get it better like coming out this finger, like right with the hair, but that's the movement. And it goes right down here. And the light, this is really the light, the outside of the arm is way over there. The light is a gazinta into the kneecap. Which is
the gazinta. I just love that term.
And then, so you get the kneecap, and then you get this big shadow up into the groin.
This youth does not look like a youth to me. This looks like, I mean, he's way sort of heavier, stockier. He sort of looks more Moses-y like than youth-like to me. But is that is his nipple. You could hang a coat on it. It's very funny. His paintings look like sculpture, which of course makes sense. But they look, they don't look so much like they're made of flesh. They look like they're made of stone. These do anyway.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so now this is exactly now how I would not draw the figure in pencil, because I drew all this outline, and I normally don't do that. I don't draw the edge of a thing, but I did that specifically for this purpose, so I can go in with a brush and dissolve the ink. And the ink should then sort of flow out. And the recipe that I have for my ink wash is you have a bottle of water on your drawing table that you never, ever, ever clean. You just use it to dip your pens in when you want to wash them out. And
Oh,
that's how you do it. You get this beautiful muddy color, which is all you need sometimes. Now, this is not how you do what I'm doing. I've been watching, Patsy, I've been watching YouTube videos on how to be a watercolorist, and they wash their brush out way too often.
ah,
they're always
it's too pure.
they're always shoving the paint laden brush in the water and shaking it around and violently. I think they're just trying to get their whatever it is out. What do you call those things that you try to get out? When you go hit a punching bag for an hour, what do you try to get out? What is it, the thing here? Your frustrations, that's the word. The frustrations. That's what I'm trying to think of. So now I may go back in with actual ink out of the bottle to make it. This is, I think, reddish purple ink, so who knows what's going to happen now. So Russell, are you still in the room here? Maybe we can get Russell to join in as well, Patsy.
Yeah.
I think, though, that this, for our building and for what we do here, I think this could be really, really fun, where we have two people like you and I who draw differently.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the result is different. We start and we look somewhat the same way at something, but the result is different. And if we had Tim Fish, it would be different still. Or
Yes,
and
definitely.
and it's just really, really fun. So I'm going to continue to draw this figure, except I'm going to try it in a different way. But I'm going to see Russell would like to join us. So Patsy, what will happen is there'll be another voice, and our view will get a little narrower. But I think your camera is high enough and your paper is small enough that we can fit three people here
Okay.
at one
Yeah.
time. And then I think you and I can shut up because people know what I sound like. But Russell and you can maybe talk about drawing a figure. So, and maybe Russell, of the two that images you showed, maybe we can go back to drawing another one, whichever one Russell wants.
Yeah. So is he still here?
He's in the chat, as there are a few other people, but he will be soon joining us, and but he's probably trying to get his camera set up again. Patsy, your that tripod thing that I gave you to use, you may keep that for a while, as long as you'd like. It actually works pretty well, or maybe David could make something that's like it, that maybe works better. And
Look at it as a model.
but it's a nice design, because it is out of your way. I realize it's on the left. I thought it would be on top of the picture, coming over the top, but David could make one that does that if he wants, because it would be out of your way. And now here's Russell.
Looking fine. Yeah.
So Russell is doing the same drawing that you're doing.
Yeah, but I've been at this one for far too long. You guys have been working on both of those drawings, and I've just been sitting here on this one.
Well, that's okay. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna draw the same one again, but I'm gonna see if I can draw it with a different style. I can figure out how to do that. I could do it on my iPad.
I'm gonna give Ezekiel a try.
Ezekiel, okay. I'm going to stick with the youth for the moment. Patsy, you could switch to the first one again if you want. But since Russell is here, when you're copying something for to learn about how to draw or whatever it is, or if you're looking at nature, how do you normally start? Do you try to map it out as a composition on a square, or do you on your piece, or what?
Is that for Russell? I think that's for Russell.
That's for Russell, yeah, but I don't know if you can hear.
I can. Oh, for me?
Yeah.
What? I'm sorry. Could you repeat the question? I
am able to repeat the question. When you start a drawing, when you have a blank piece of paper and you're going to put something on it, I know sometimes you do stream of unconsciousness drawing, like you were doing with the Jabberwocky. I don't think you planned that too much. But when you're copying something that's already been designed, or if you're trying to be particularly realistic of what you see, do you try to map it out on the page, or how do you do it?
Yeah, I always map it out like loosely on the page. I mean, I'm used to doing more outlines here, whereas you're always dealing with the masses. But I'm always looking at the motion lines. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where I'll feel the big gesture, sort of like I'm doing here, where I'll just scratch around on the page until I get essentially something, an area in which to work, and then I can start tightening things up, just like you guys. It's just different ways of figuring out that you know what I mean, that process.
So if you're sort of taking this figure as if it were alive and moving, and what sort of motion it's having,
they talk about in figure drawing the line of motion. Patsy, you might be familiar with this bit, where there's like, if you can conceptualize the figure as having one central line that's moving right through it, and that directs the whole pose.
Yeah.
So for example,
yeah, I know that as a system. Yes.
That's basically what I'm doing. So for example, Ezekiel, when I see him, I look like this kind of line right here. But obviously a bit more complex than that.
Look at your screen to see that you're sort of off of it. You're
Right.
I've decided I'm going to turn the youth into a World War I era battleship with razzle dazzle painting in a minute. Just because.
Yeah, I'm getting kind of done with him. Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Do you want to do another one?
well, I thought we were doing like 10 minutes, so
Well, I know we went a
We
little
got-
further because we were
which
having
is
so much,
fine.
which
We are having fun. I think I'm good.
okay. Well, Patrick and I can, or Russell and I can continue if you want to go away. But I really love how the two of us and the three of us now are drawing the same thing. I think this is really a valuable
Oh, okay.
thing to learn
Yeah.
about how artists see the same thing. You know, we're not,
Okay. Then
and
I can stick with it and just draw along.
yeah, if you want. I mean,
I was just feeling like I showed sort of the thing that I think's a little bit different about the process I learned, and it really has to just do with the start. And then it does have to do with, say, how if I'm working a section here, my rule is, do I always follow it? No, but it's here. Don't finish until you've gotten all the way down to another large body part that I've done
yeah,
a connection. So
okay.
I've retained a gazinta.
The Gazinta, yeah.
Yeah. So say if I'm going to do this belly line here, where is it going to take me? It kind of spins, does a spin and goes in under the pectoral. Or the shadow here goes down the center line, right? So then work the center line, both the lights and the dark and the belly button and the, we just keep working on down, but to keep moving, my hand's a little rusty with all the pandemic. Didn't get any figure sessions. But it's a habit to just try to keep it either on a gazinta, right, or a repetition with variation, which is, I was just up here and I saw that on the elbow, and that struck me as, oh, that's kind of like I need to put the dark in under the pectoral because that makes a similar shape to that. That's what I call a pogo stick hopping around, which is this shape.
The pogo stick theory of art.
Yes,
I like that.
that's another Patsyism. Yeah.
Well,
Too pointy there.
It's really fun. I enjoyed it so much when we did it at the figure drawing show, where we all were drawing because, and artists who haven't drawn the figure in a long time, they do whatever they do because they did that already in figure drawing class, and they don't feel they have to do it anymore.
Right.
But they were just amazed at how all of us were doing the same kind of thing and watching the magic, I guess, happen. And
and a lot is taught by demonstration. I agree.
Yeah. And again, I was thinking that again for the Brick Bottom YouTube channel, we can have things that are not demonstrations, but just talking heads. Sometimes it could be people talking about a show at the museum or about the value of a certain kind of practice or study versus realism versus abstractionism, or all sorts of stuff. It could be rather heated debate about art rather than about our parking spaces and the
Mhm.
noise.
Oh, see, like the deltoid, I just saw the deltoid curves in towards here, the trapezius deltoid over here, that is tracking through the eye socket.
Oh,
Got to place it there. That little bit of light aimed me towards that dart, towards that line, towards that arrow.
I'll have to learn anatomy so I know what a deltoid is.
The muscle that looks like a D on your upper arm.
Okay, I don't have that. I don't think I have any muscles.
I don't have any left after the pandemic and getting old.
Well, I don't think I ever, even in my most virile youth, if I can use that term, I don't think I had any muscles. My little brother was the muscular one.
Uh-huh.
He looked like a anatomy lesson in muscles. No fat whatsoever. That's what I've got.
So right now I'm going see all these acorns, and then something here in terms of the drapery or something so that's repetition with variation.
Well, those are acorns. I didn't even know that.
They're acorns, and then over here I'm not sure what, but it's a rumply fabric. Maybe there's acorns again down here, and then this kneecap is an acorn.
Oh, it is. Huh.
Yeah. Well, it looks like one.
It does. It
Yeah.
does. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, and that's the thing about drawing like this is you like, oh, that's how this thing is so well coordinated.
Well, I mean, the thing with drawing what an artist did, he did a lot of the hard work, making exaggerating whatever it is in the kneecap that made it look like the acorns, or changing the acorns so they had that shape. So, but if I was looking at a real person carrying humongous acorns with them, I don't know whether I would see that by looking at just the actual person, So
I think
again,
this drawing process, where you're looking at what are the unified, you're trying to only put something down when you see it as part of a design pattern. That means that while you're doing it, you're making it and seeing it. It's like the process. Then, and the right brain processes that way. You know? Yeah, as you get this, while you're in the seeing mode.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, when they're in urban sketchers and we're drawing a building or something, or a tree or anything, they often, get trapped by counting how many windows are in the building, how many panes of glass are in the window, and how many slats of wood in the siding, and they're looking at, again, the parts. They're not looking at the whole, and you have to, in order to make any sense out of anything, you do have to edit out a heck of a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Like David, how he can draw a forest is beyond me. I want to just
No editing.
Yeah, as
I
he says,
would
no editing.
get some Agent Orange in my hands and let me make it easy, because there's a million trees with just looking in one direction, and he's able to draw the ones that are important and suggest 9/10 of them that aren't important, but he still draws them. They're still there, and they might be just a line
Mm-hmm.
or an absence of a line, but it's you do have to simplify things a lot, and I do anyway. I can't.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. There's not enough light and shadow on a paper compared to what there is out in the world. That we don't get that range. Not available to us on a piece of paper because already it's dark.
That's always my problem. I was talking to Pierre yesterday about how basically I can't ever stop myself from getting caught up on those little details. And so while he was producing like a million different drawings yesterday, I was stuck on one.
Well, but the one that you got stuck on, we were drawing the Jabberwocky, Patsy, the
Yeah.
Lewis Carroll monster from,
Yeah.
and it had teeth and claws, and that was really all we knew. Sharp teeth, fiery eyes, and claws. And I was drawing this creature that looked like the Tasmanian devil, just because that's how it turned out in my brain. And Russell, would you like to explain what yours looked like, if we have enough time?
Bring it over. I'm drawing on the back of that page. So mine looked sort of more or less like this here, where it's this sort of strange machine with a creature riding on top of it. Yeah, it's hard to see here because my tripod's not all that great. And then I drew a few of the background details around it, and the troves and the slides, I think. Well, there we go.
What happened? You and your tripod. Well, Patsy,
I need to invest in a better holder.
His creature had a dozen windows, each with a candle in the window, burning candle in the window, and so his interpretation required a lot of detail, where mine really didn't require any detail. And I was making a series of images that I was going to later animate. So I was on a speedy mission. So here I drew the lights on gray paper, and now I'm going to get a black pencil and add the darks.
So, Patsy, I was actually very curious about your education as an artist now once you brought it up, because you said that you were sort of taught. Would you describe it as a sort of an academic manner, or would you say that by that point, by the point where they had finished after Rodin, or you're dealing with a student of Rodin, that sort of academic style of teaching was outmoded?
Yeah, especially like I studied summer and winter with him for 5 years. That was after I graduated from. I did it from.
So it was a proper atelier experience.
Yeah. It was that he could draw figures with the kind of life force and energy that nobody I had been studying with seemed to be able to do. I in order to get to art school, I was really lucky that whatever. I had to go to a liberal arts school so that my dad would pay for art school. And by some miracle, this dyslexic young woman got into Brown and suffered a lot because they didn't know how to help you. But my intention was all you had to do was take one course at Brown. You could take everything else at RISD. So in terms of your coursework, your art coursework.
Oh, I see. So what you did is you took one course, that one actual academic course at Brown, and then all the other actual courses you wanted to take, you went to RISD for.
Well, I wish it had been that's what I really wanted. I wanted just to go to art school, but I did have I did a combined art history and art major, and so every studio arts class was at RISD. But I was required, if I was going to get a Brown degree, to do a heck of a lot of academia. But in the winter, he only taught 2 days a week drawing. And then in the summer, we all went up to Folly Cove, Gloucester. We lived in Lanesville, and we studied. It was you did drawing in the morning from the figure and sculpture in the afternoon.
I see.
So it was intensive study in the summer. And that's when I feel like I really learned what I wanted to know. And really, it took me that long. And I don't feel my hand is there at all right now, but it took me that long to get it. And I need to warm my hand up again after this long, hard winter of no models. But that was my teaching, which prepared me for a really wonderful. For 13 years, I taught at the Art Institute of Boston. Nate Goldstein took me into his department. That he was, I was really lucky because back then women didn't get hired in any art schools. That I was the third woman hired there among 75 faculty. But I was hired to start a sculpture, second semester sculpture for the freshmen, because he was very intent on teaching students form in their drawings, so that at the point where you were going in the first semester, because I also taught drawing there, in the first semester it was all line work, and then as you headed towards the second, you started doing plane studies, where it looks like you're doing wire sculptures, just all plane structure. And and then see the sculpture. So what he wanted from me was that I would teach, hands-on how you get your planes. And so, and we had good side light there. We weren't up under a skylight, but we did have good side light so that you could see when your hand is on the clay. You're making the light and the shadow. You have to push the clay away from the light, and you have to push the clay towards the light, and that's how you're doing your light.
And since you've got the side light, you can sort of see the immediate effect of the pushes you're making.
Right. And Nate, over time, there's a book, one of his many books, but drawing, The Art of Responsive Drawing, that was the name of it. He got famous in freshman departments all over. And so he got to go around and give lots of lectures and stuff. And he was showing some slides in one of those places. And somebody said, "So, are these your junior drawings or your senior drawings?" He said, "Oh, second semester freshman." Yeah. So that it was actually, once they were, I think it was at least halfway through the semester or towards the end of the second semester, because it was by then they really they could understand what light and shadow was. And I remember learning that my hands understood what a shadow was. So all of a sudden, when I'm working with a piece of charcoal, I can feel my hand on the clay,
Huh.
Hmm.
you know? So, and he very generously said to all of us when he's come back, and he was like, "Geez, everybody thinks I'm so amazing," and they roll out the red carpet. He said, geez, guys, I was just trying to make a buck, and I just my book, everything we all do here together. It's teamwork. He's such a great guy. It's teamwork. We're doing this together. Yeah.
Well, I mean, and he couldn't have shown such good results if he hadn't had dedicated students.
No, back then, the students really were focused and really dedicated. It was particularly after the GI Bill um, from the Vietnam War. We got a lot of guys coming in, like getting out of the Army. They were 25 and they really wanted to get their career going. They set a tone in the classroom that
They were serious about it, and that informed everybody else. Oh, this is real for them.
yeah. And so that made us set for quite a long time in the classroom and for a number of years, that you came here to work and work hard. That's when it was really fun to teach there. I felt it was a privilege to teach there.
And where was that? I'm sorry.
The
Museum
Art
school?
Institute of Boston, it was in Kenmore Square, and then
Oh, okay.
it's really hard to keep an art school going, and things were running thin, and they joined up with Lesley University. So
Oh, yeah, of course.
I had worked a bit on making a slightly different link, so that our students could take their 4 years of art school and do an extra, I think, semester plus, it's called a life experience petition, and get an actual bachelor's degree. At that point, we were not granting a bachelor's. First thing we managed was an associate's, but at first we were a trade school.
Oh,
Yeah, taught. I mean, there was illustration and advertising,
okay.
and then there was this fine arts program, but we were a trade school. And then we linked up with this other program there, the independent residency option, that I ended up going, working for them. But I did arts in that program as a very different kind of teaching, not studio teaching, but it was also just a different kind of training I had.
So, can I ask you, were the GIs, were they sort of more focused on doing like commercial art, like going into advertising houses or things like that?
That would show up towards the end of the year when people were, making their decision. I think, yeah, a lot of people were going for that because everybody had to take the freshman course.
Right.
And then towards the end, then they would come and talk to me about, and various teachers about where they were thinking. And yeah, a lot of people were there to make sure they had a trade,
Mm.
which I think is a good plan if you're going to be an artist. My trade is teaching. That's how I got through. You know, you got to have some trade.
You got to have some kind of specialty that you can do.
Yeah, and that was mine. I love teaching. I come from a family that teaches lots of different things, but that teaching bug is in the family, and I sure enjoyed it. Too many lumps here. Yeah, I loved those years. But then I did choose to go the Leslie route because I also had this other oddball degree. It was called open classroom work. It's student-centered learning and experiential learning. And because that was what I was looking at as a trade kind of thing when I was first finished, which was, geez, public school pays the best, you know, and gives you health insurance.
Yeah, that's the
But
important
then
thing.
I'm not cut out for that. I ended up, 400 students a week. It was enough when I had 100 students a week in art. So anyway, the Leslie program, you teach individually, and that's another whole thing. Each student would do 16 credits, and it was like, okay, what sort of credits do you need? And they'd come to me for the art part.
So when you talk about experiential learning, was that
Yeah.
sort of like I remember I was reading actually a book about the history of art education in the United States. This was for a class. And they had this whole debate between like these two schools that kept swinging back and forth. And so there was one where, well, they need to learn like they would in a laboratory, but then there was another that said, well, it should be about expressivity. So which side did you tend to go on to?
Well, when teaching with Nate Goldstein, I do believe that art is a craft. And that I was there teaching the craft. I was teaching the craft of design, the craft of basic drawing. That, if you're going to draw the figure or going to draw a still life or whatever, you need to know your craft. So that, in the experiential learning program, this one is of the, the fluid movements between ideas that happen in all fields. This one is John Dewey's idea of you want your students to be curious. And
Yes, you want them to. Oh, I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
I just want to interrupt for 1 second. JB from Germany is in the room, and he was wondering, Russell, are you drawing after Michelangelo? So we're all drawing after two drawings of Michelangelo from the Sistine Chapel. This one is Ezekiel, and that's the one that Russell is now drawing. And Patsy and I are, and that's what I was drawing here for the third time. And Patsy is drawing, my neighbor Patsy is drawing the nude youth. And I did a couple of those drawings already.
yeah, Speedy Peter.
And JB is an art historian, is that correct? I hope I got that right. Studying in Germany to be an art history person. Here's my first Ezekiel. So I have very clever, interesting followers on my channel, and I hope that these people will go and follow the Brick Bottom channel when we get that up and running.
Yeah, this is great what you're doing.
And the brick bottom will have its own channel, and I don't know who will have access to it. Maybe I will have access, and maybe Charles Baldwin will have access, and maybe there can be another one. We'll have different kinds of shows. Some will be just what we're doing here, drawing things together, talking about drawing or painting. And one could be talking heads talking about shows we've seen, art exhibits, and other things. So I hope they're gonna be fun. And I think the other thing is, Patsy, is when the brick bottom channel is up, it would also be able to show links to my channel, where I'm doing things that are kind of artsy. And if Pauline Lim, for example, just taking her name out of a hat, has a channel about how she does her mosaics, or I don't know who in the building actually has YouTube channels, but I think all of these things can link together, and people can sort of migrate from one group of people to another. And what's nice about Patsy, what's interesting about the live aspect of this is that there are people that are commenting live as we're working, and we can answer their questions and take their suggestions or explain something that needs more explaining for someone that doesn't know what drawing with a charcoal is like, or whatever, whatever the question might be. So I think, though, we've been talking for an hour and 22 minutes, and I think that is a little longer than I had intended, but I think we had fun.
Yes, had fun. Thank you.
And I think we can do this again, maybe. I'd love to have you and Deborah talk about your use of the sort of mystical, for lack of a better term, female figure in your work.
Yes. Yes, I would. That's another whole.
I think that would really be fascinating to hear, because have you ever talked to her about it?
Yes, we have, on the fly in front of one of her pictures or my pictures.
Okay.
Always said we need to get time to do this.
Well, I think this would be a perfect way to do it, where you could be in your studio in front of pictures that you've done, or you could have images on an iPad or a thing that you can show and talk about, or you could just have a talking head do it. But I always think the talking head is the least interesting part of this. It's much more interesting seeing what we're doing. And so even watching hands while you're talking is more interesting than watching a face, I think. So sometimes. Okay.
Okay. Thank
so
you.
Say goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Patsy.
Okay. Thank you, Pierre.
Bye.
Bye.